Taking a closer look tonight at one of the most intriguing questions on the ballot as voters in Minneapolis decide the future of the city's police department. Let's talk about how voters responded to calls to reimagine, or some would argue to defund, the police department with Seattle Police Officers Guild President Mike Solon and Seattle talk radio host Jason Rantz. Good to have you both back with us tonight.
Hey, Shannon.
It's still tonight in Seattle. It's the morning here on the East Coast, but great to have you guys. So it looks like they have voted down in Minneapolis this public safety question that would have reimagined what the police department would do, how it would function or not function there. Jason, what do you make of the vote?
I mean, it's obviously good news for policing in this country. You had a very radical position being taken that we're going to actually put it to the voters. And there was always a little bit of anxiety that the voters would say, okay, yes, actually, we are in favor of defunding and really abolishing the police. I was of the position, you know what, you should put it to the vote. You have a lot of activists and politicians who are taking this position, pushing this forward, but we're not actually hearing from the people who would be directly impacted by this. And I'm glad that they stood up and said, no, this is too far gone for us, and it will, at least in the short term, stop some of the momentum that activist crowd had felt.
So let me put up a little bit of the Minneapolis violent crime stats. This is year to date for 2021, so 11 months in. I think this is probably covering 10 months. Obviously, we don't have November, December yet. But homicide, 79, rape, 340, robbery, more than 1,700, aggravated assault, more than 2,600, and domestic aggravated assault, 675. And I want to touch on Seattle, too, Mike, since that's where you are. This Wall Street Journal opinion piece says crime is up and Democrats are scrambling. It says the Seattle Police Department investigated 73% more homicides in 2020 than it did a year earlier. And they say about 300 police officers have retired or resigned from SPD in the past 18 months. Now, that was before the COVID vaccine mandates. So, Mike, what do you make of where you are tonight? Because you're post that now, which has also impacted the police department there. So two of these big cities with real crime issues and a blow to the force.
Well, just like Minneapolis pushed back against the defunding nonsense, I think hopefully the numbers hold here in Seattle, where our community is woken up and they're pushing back against the nonsensical defunding narrative that's sadly captured Seattle's activist class and pushed it nationwide following Minneapolis's lead. But I tell you, this gives us hope that people who are impacted by the public safety calamity that these politicians put us in on behalf of the activist class that drives public safety political discourse are finally pushing back and waking up. It's very encouraging. Hopefully it holds.
Okay, so Jason, I want to talk about this one race, which we've talked about, we've discussed. This is from the Seattle Times today. It says Seattle's normally low-profile city attorney contest has drawn national attention, with Nicole Thomas Kennedy campaigning on an abolitionist agenda of ending most prosecutions, while her rival, Ann Davison, emphasizing law and order, could become the first Republican elected in the city in decades. Jason, what's your feel for that race?
Yeah, so right now, Nicole Thomas Kennedy is losing by about 17 points. But as anyone will say in the city of Seattle and Washington State, the way that we do our elections, hold your horses. Let's not jump to any conclusions. So right now, we have about 27% of registered voters having actually cast their ballot. We don't know how many votes came in today via the drop boxes, nor do we know how many will come in tomorrow for those who postmark by 8 p.m. Unlike the rest of the country, where Republicans tend to vote on the last day or the actual day of the election they go in, here that's not the case. It's actually the opposite. We have the activists, the socialists, the very far to the right, or to the left progressives, who end up voting. And we have been in positions where we've been heartbroken. All 17 of the Republicans who live in Seattle thinking, oh my gosh, things are about to change. And then bam, all of a sudden, we see a huge jump. Do I think she's going to close that gap? No, so I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm cautious.
Okay, and so, Mike, explain for us what the synergy has to be between police, between prosecutors, if you're actually going to go after crime and prosecute and get people off the streets, when one of your options is somebody who's saying, listen, we're probably not going to even prosecute misdemeanors, may back off on some other things. If you guys make the arrests and go to that trouble and you're under a lot of stress and pressure, if a prosecutor won't follow through, what does it mean to the force?
Well, it means more to the community that their public safety is in jeopardy. And then that gives a sense of disillusion of the officers that, hey, we'll go out and do the job. We'll arrest these people that break the law. But the bottom line is that the prosecutors are in charge of charging these criminals. And more often than not, the past city attorney, and hopefully not the person that's losing in the race right now, they've been on record not charging these criminals. That puts our public safety in grave jeopardy. So the cops are in a no-win situation, but guess what? We're still showing up and doing our job. It's time these prosecutors did theirs. Hopefully, just like Jason alluded to, we're being cautious, but hopefully the results hold. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, Mike and Jason. Mike, thank you to you and all your fellow officers who show up there every day in difficult conditions, always, to all of our first responders and frontline law enforcement folks. We appreciate you, and thank you very much. And Jason, for keeping an eye on things and always letting us know what's going on out west. We appreciate you both. Thank you.